NFL Combine coverage continues at KFAN and Vikings.com. Paul Allen, Gabe Henderson, and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, the general manager for the Minnesota Vikings. And your press conference is forthcoming. Do you anticipate any doozies, like the media going to come at you and offer up some doozies?
You know what? Jeff and all these guys have made me really see that in a positive light. You go up there to communicate to our fans and ultimately to communicate to Vikings fans and NFL fans. So, I'm going to be up there. I'm going to take what they have for me. I'm going to talk about things the way I talk about them because ultimately that's the only way I can do it and communicate in a passionate, joyful way that I do, and we'll leave what happens after that.
Now, Kwesi's the GM of the team. Ryan Grigson is his right-hand man with personnel. Ryan Munnins directs personnel. Chisholm Opara assists Ryan, and Demetrius Washington runs football operations. When I lay that core part of the team out, you smile. I mean, this being your second year, establishing exactly what you want to establish, very much a work in progress, I would imagine still. But when I lay that team out, how's that sound?
It's amazing. I think when people don't realize there's a lot to this job that, isn't always the most fun. But what is the most fun is putting together a team of people like that. I look at them as almost like a diversified portfolio. They have a lot of different skill sets that complement me, complement the Vikings, complement each other. So I smile because nobody would know that group of people, if you look at them individually and then put them together, how well we thrive together, how passionate we are about this game, and how well, I believe that what we're building for this team.
Kwesi, I remember last year just seeing you walk into this building, how, bright the lights were. It was like, this is our first year. We're trying to figure this thing out. And then going through this process with you, with the Minnesota Vikings in year one, it just seemed like everything started to fall in place. So for you, how would you say your decision-making process has evolved since last year when you were at the Combine?
I think you have to be I think I've always known this, but you can plan all you want, but you got to be ready for just things going a little bit left, a little bit right. You can be as detailed as you want, as prepared as advanced all you want, but there's other people involved, and there's humans, emotions, different interests, and so you just got to be ready for variance. And that's something that I've probably learned a little bit as I've gone along, but it's not something you back down from. You just got to prepare for it.
Having all this leadership in place, Ryan Grigson, like PA just said, Demetrius, everyone that's helping you make decisions for the betterment of the Minnesota Vikings, how has that helped you organize how you guys want to be in this draft, this upcoming draft this year, where we are right now?
It's everything. I spend a lot of my time leading an organization, which is people management, processes, things like that. I don't have time to watch every prospect, but I do have time to set a vision. So I sit and talk with Kev and think about our team, our horizon, and what do we need? What do we need to be a competitive championship team, and not just 1 year, but try and sustain it? So I give them the vision, and then they go do it. I think I got the best personal shoppers in the NFL, and then they bring me options, and ultimately it's my job to see how that fits into the grand vision. But those guys are incredible, and I'm so blessed and fortunate to have them.
Hey, Kwesi, sweating out all those games last year. I mean, sweating out all those games. The majority of the games were just such sweats last year. Do you take notes during games? Because sometimes, when we're on the road, you'll either be in the booth next to us, or you and Demetrius and whomever, Brzezinski, Grigson, whomever, a couple of booths down or whatever, and I'll see you jotting some things down every so often. Like, what do you look for during a game?
Yeah, every game I try and focus on one or two things, really core themes that I'm just kind of looked at. I study the matchup from our analytics guys will give me some different ways that we should be better or they should be better. And so I just try and focus on a couple things. So that's mostly what those notes are coming for. But I also just talk about big plays. B-Flow has a term, weighty downs, those big, momentous, game-changing downs. So on those plays, I'll kind of write something. Hey, if this goes left instead of right, we either win, the outcome could be different, positive or negative for our team. So you'll see me watching those things. A lot of times, though, I'm just pacing because the game, in a sense, you sort of played the game in your head before you get there. And in a sense, the game is just a realization of the things that you're never really totally surprised by what happens during a game.
Really?
So you're watching probability play itself out, and you're just pacing. I'm not really that emotional. It's hard to be in a booth with me because up, down, left, or right, I'm just kind of in it, and I'm focusing. And ultimately, that's what I'm trying to do.
Now, when you say the probability plays itself out, obviously that's not a 100% equation, but it's very difficult, I would imagine, putting things together during the course of the week, anticipating what's coming, and then you don't get what you think's coming, and then you change on the fly, and they change on the fly. And isn't that just fascinating how it works over the totality of a game?
It's incredible, and that's why I have so much respect for Kevin. I love my job, and I think I think I do a great job of it. But the admiration I have for coaches, and then Kevin specifically, his ability to prepare. I always joke on Tuesdays, I get to see him at his core. The quarterback coach, the QC, he's in there. He's watching films. He's trying to dial things up. I get to see him in his best, his best workman's version of himself. And I know what's going to be on Sunday. I know he's going to give us, our team, the best chance we can. And I also know that he's going to be able to ad-lib. I've never seen somebody able to switch. And if you go look at our games, and maybe there were a couple of lulls, that's because he was there in between drives, seeing what they were doing, trying to adjust on the fly. I can see that from up there. And, again, like I said, that guy gives us a chance to win every game that we play, no matter who's on the field. Yeah. And that's the one thing you need to have to win a championship, one of the things you need to have, and I know we have it.
Yeah, we know Kevin, being the head coach, being all in every single week of the season, it's got to be tough for him to turn coaching off during this time of the year, especially in such a splickety-splick fashion. But at the same time, how have you seen you guys' decision-making and collaboration evolve when it comes to personnel?
You know what? He can flip that switch. Whenever I need him, his personnel, I call him William. William's his assistant GM name. So I'll be like, William, and he'll know. He'll click in.
Gotcha.
And he is unbelievably able to switch from, scheme to being that guy that I need. Hey, to your vision here. This isn't just about Sunday. I've never been like I continue to say it. He could be a GM one day.
It's like an alter ego.
He's that talented. He understands it so well. He was trained by Sean McVay and some really great people in his life, and he's also incredibly talented, incredibly smart. One day he popped up to me. He's like, I'd want to get an MBA one day, just because some of the terms he's just interested in some of the terms that we say and throw around. He's just a passionate learner, and that's one of the reasons we get along so well.
Awesome. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, general manager for the Minnesota Vikings at the 2023 Indianapolis Scouting Combine, and with some coaching staffs opting not to come. I mean, that's been the case the last year and change, but it seems to be expanding. Now, when we get the opportunity to chat with Kevin tomorrow, I'm going to ask him the same thing. But from your standpoint, do you feel it's important to have coaches here at the Combine?
I can't speak for other teams and why they do what they do.
No, for you and this team.
For this team, yeah, I think it's important for Kevin and I also, for the coaching staff, personnel staff. People don't realize we have meetings, but a lot of times we're in separate places doing separate things. Some of it's just great time to connect.
Yeah.
Guard down. Afterwards, grab a tea, a coffee, or some other beverage that you might grab. Some of that's just the social connection, but also getting the. I don't get to go on the road during the season. I don't get to look at these players, neither the coaches. So it's a good opportunity for us to see them all in one place, look them in the eye, all those things. So we think there's value, but like we do everything else in this organization, we're going to continue to monitor what we do, make sure that it's the most optimal way to use our time. And if it isn't, we'll pivot. But for now, we think it's a great use of our time.
Right on.
Yeah, I know you just said you don't really care about what other teams do, but at the same time, how much do you have to be in tune with other teams' needs to determine what's best fit for this Minnesota Vikings team?
That's a great point. And we have a great pro staff who really does all those things, because ultimately you need to know what their interests are when you're calling them for various reasons, or really to understand the free agent market or the draft market, different things. So that's a critical part of it for sure. But ultimately, as much as that matters, your core job is to put the best version of the Minnesota Vikings on the field, year in and year out, and that's where you really want to start.
Over the course of last offseason and now, anybody ever call you and be like, no, trust me, Kwesi, I got an offer you can't refuse? And they're like, you got to take this doozy, man. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
No, I think and again, I could be wrong. Maybe somebody else would answer that question differently. I think there's just an ultimate level of respect we all have for each other. I don't ever want to pick up the phone and call somebody with a really bad deal. I think ultimately I want to make not one trade, multiple trades. I want to be in the business, and I also want to stand on my word. I want people to realize that I'm somebody who's accountable, genuine, and isn't trying to run anybody over. I think a lot of times, two people can do a trade and win. And what I mean by that is we might have different time horizons. So maybe I have a need this year, and you might have a need 2 years from now. Well, sometimes that can work where a player for a draft pick happens, and nobody's trying to run the other person over. We're both eyes open and understand what we need, and we can meet in the middle on that.
Yeah, and I'm speculating and guessing here a bit, which I generally don't like to do, but the meetings that take place with the players here, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, I'm guessing you really enjoy those. That's you maximize the time with exactly what you want, and you leave it with a quick twitch. I don't want to say in or out, but you have a really good feel. Is that fair?
Absolutely. We are very intentional about our process and what we're asking, what we're trying to gain. It's 18 minutes or whatever it is. So you want to be sure that you can you do the best you can with 18 minutes and not try and do 10 different things poorly. Maybe do 3 things okay. And so that's what we try and do. I love the environment we've created. We've got a lot of smart people that put together our questions and things like that. It's every little bit of it's detailed. But I love the top 30 process. I love that I get to look them one-on-one, look them in the eye, ask the questions I ask, guard down, personal relationship. Let's talk about you. What's in your soul? What's in your heart? I love those interactions a little bit more.
And with like the top 30 and things like that, I mean, you can really learn a lot about a person because I've hosted them before, and I've seen people roll in, no names mentioned. Planes have been late, car wasn't there on time.
Yep.
And they come in, and it's like they're all flustered, and, just looking at their phone and everything. And, like Mark Wilf will walk up, and then I feel like saying, so-and-so, this is one of the co-owners, man. This is the president of the team, whether you're here or not. Take a deep breath. I mean, you can learn a lot in those intimate sessions.
For sure.
And I guess my question along the top 30 lines is how do you balance the in-person interviews, who you want to have at, I guess, each night, 5 or 6 to 7 guys each night during the combine versus your top 30? What is the process of figuring out what best fits where?
Yeah, some of it's just availability. You're only allotted certain number of combine interviews. The top 30 you might call in for different reasons. I don't want to get too much into the weeds on that. And obviously, I've got some great people on my executive team: Ryan Grigson, Jamal Stevenson, Mike Charlton, guys who've been around this college process a lot longer than me. That really kind of helped me and advised me on what to do and which person to bring in for which process.
What led you to Brian Flores?
Man, B-Flow. He's a special guy. Obviously, the background. I'm always going to be a results, a process guy. So I went back and studied his defenses and their performance, and I'm looking at that 2020 team, that 21 team, and I'm like, these are some really good performances. The different metrics I look at, and I'm looking at the roster, and it's young, and I'm like, this is the guy. He's got a personnel background. He just fits in so many different ways. We're looking for somebody to not just coach a defense, but help us reimagine the roster, not just for this year, but as we go forward in football.
How much of this phrase that a lot of guys describe B-Flow as help your decision-making process? There's a phrase that a lot of people are saying that B-Flow always says. He always says, don't let our expectations of you be bigger than the expectations of yourself.
Yeah.
That mindset, how much of that went into the process of, okay, this is our guy?
That just hits it home. He's such a – it's not just the football side. He's a great leader. Okay. You talk a lot. Our reference process is exhaustive. We talk to former players, even guys that you might have thought he wouldn't have necessarily maybe had the best relationship. They all love him for that because he holds them accountable. He tries to develop them every day. He's just an incredible leader, a credible coach, and the Vikings are really happy to have him. Rapid
fire to close. What did you think of Kirk's season?
Incredible season. I go back, I chart every game, I look over it, and it's hard. Sometimes when you're in the moment, it's difficult, right? You focus on one thing, but when you step back and look at the full body of work, he had a really incredible season. He answered the bell whenever it was asked of him. He's one of the best pure throwers in the league, one of the best pure throwers I'll probably ever be around. He gives our players the chance to be the best version of themselves because the ball will be there on time if he's protected. He's a great player, had a great season. We won a lot of games with him. 13 games is a really hard thing to do in the NFL. The season didn't end the way we wanted it to end, but that shouldn't take from all the things that he accomplished.
Ed Ingram played every snap. Now, only 4 penalties called on him, 3 accepted. And there's obviously improvement is required. However, there's something to be said for somebody who is available for a 13-win team every single snap. I mean, you just don't see that frequently in the trenches.
Not just every single snap, every single practice. Now think about that as a young player in the trenches, like you said. That's grown men in there.
Big time.
It's not young people business. And so he answered the bell, and there was ups and downs. Obviously, he was very appreciative that we stuck with him, and I told him, I think you've got a great ceiling. Take this offseason and take that next step, and I think we'll have a really good player in our hands.
Last one. Who do you chat with more this time of the year? Kevin O'Connell or Justin Jefferson's agent?
Man. Kevin O'Connell, just because his agent's a great player, great person.
Yeah.
I've set his expectations. We love Justin, man. Nothing would make me happier to be in my term with the Minnesota Vikings to have him here for all of those years and outlasting me.
We appreciate the chat,
you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, General Manager of the Minnesota Vikings from the Indianapolis Scouting Combine. Back after this.